Hey, it's Avalon here from Blossoming Woman. And in this little video, I'm going to share with you a story of a powerful earth healing experience that I had on the weekend. We went to a gathering, which was a village gathering. So the intention of all the families and people coming to gather was about visioning and brainstorming and having discussions and conversations and group processes about reclaiming the village in our modern world. How do we take steps to move forward? What's the culture that we're stepping into on the planet as humans? What is the, how can we recreate community and connection and support and true sustainability? So that was the purpose of the weekend. So there were various workshops, all like once you're there, it's all just sort of free contribution type stuff, right? So there was one workshop I felt drawn to, and this is what I'm sharing with you now. It was an earth healing workshop with a beautiful facilitator, a woman that's been doing this earth healing work for about 20 years. She does workshops at Woodford and different big festivals and things. So initially in the workshop, we first did an energy sensitivity process, which I've shared in the Divine Mother Temple. So I'm just going to tell you about what happened. So once our hands were really sensitized, we were given instructions to walk out of the tent and just trust our intuition to see where we feel drawn to go. Because the land that we were on had recently been, there was a lot of earth moving had happened. So a lot of disruption had happened in the actual property. There were different big mounds and different levels where people could camp. Like, it was huge and it's amazing. It's a long-term vision. So there was, the riverbank was a bit disturbed. So there was a lot of tree planting happening there. So anyway, I walked out of the tent and the instructions were just to trust your intuition, go where you feel drawn to, see if anything pops out, like in terms of looking brighter. So initially I was sensing the earth with my hands and I was feeling energy. And then I looked up and there was a part of a hill that was all covered in wood chips, which really drew my attention. So I trusted that and I went over to that, excuse me, and I stood there and I could feel, and I closed my eyes and I was just sensitive to what I could notice. And I noticed that the energy was very fragmented. Felt, like there was obvious physical disruption, but I stood there and I asked, what are you needing? Just speaking to the earth, what's needed here? And the response was, it's just needing acknowledgement of what's happened. So it was a beautiful process because through my presence and through asking, what's needed here, noticing the disruption, being really present to it. I didn't have any judgment. I didn't have any anger, because the earth had obviously been disrupted by humans with bulldozers and stuff. But I just was really present, listening. What do you need? I need acknowledgement. And through that process of just simply acknowledging what had happened with presence, the energy felt like it started to realign and become more harmonious. Like I could sense that was the beginning of, there was a real exchange of consciousness happening in that spot through my presence, right? So that was the first part. And there's another part of this story, which is actually the really powerful bit, right? So after that, I was doing that for a few minutes and noticing a shift and noticing that the earth seemed a bit happier, right? Like just seemed like a bit relieved to be acknowledged, noticed, and my loving presence was there because I was approaching it with the love of the mother and responding as if, this is the earth mother and I'm the mother bringing my love to this spot. So then we were called back to a different spot to gather and share what we'd noticed or experienced. So we had a little circle of sharing. And then a couple of the people really were noticing some fragmentation, some energy, there was this sort of area where we were gathered, which ended up being like a big triangular area, which spread all the way across the whole property where people were camping. Like someone who was very sensitive to energy was sort of sensing how far it went. And there was a beautiful Indigenous woman in our group too, and she was saying that the ancestors are watching, pointing up the hill to the ancestors watching. And we could tell that there was something unsettled in this land that we were standing on then. And because we'd been doing a workshop to become sensitive to the energy, we were all sort of differently, individually sensing it and going, it's actually getting stronger. So we identified there was a very strong area of disruption, and it felt unsettling. A couple of the women started to feel a bit nervous. I started to feel a little bit almost like an anxiety, like there was something unsettled within me. And the Indigenous woman, we said, do we have permission to work with this energy? And so we discovered that, yes, it's okay. It's okay to proceed. We didn't know what we were going to do, right? We just were present to that there was something needed to happen. So intuitively, the facilitator said, okay, well, I need 3 of you to stand around this spot. And so myself and 2 men, we stood back to back, shoulder to shoulder in a little triangle, like a very tight little triangle, standing at this area that had been identified to be this very intense, disrupted energy. And it felt like it wasn't actually from this disruption from the bulldozer. This was ancient, old energetic disruption. Disruption is not actually the right word. It was more like emotion, like angst and some kind of deep loss, right? Some very old wound that was in this land from something that had happened a long time ago. So we stood around it, and then the others, there was, I don't know how many, I think there was like 7 of us. So 3 in the middle and then 4 around, or 4 or 5 around. And we just started making sound to release whatever the energy was. Our intention was to release whatever needs to be released from this area, because there was a lot of energy there, right? So we closed our eyes and we just started making sounds like, like, and just the outside circle, we're just like walking around slowly to hold the space. We started this process, and then all of a sudden, it's like we dislodged this huge volcano of energy, which just went, and my arms flew up into the air, and I went, rah! And I actually just started screaming with my head flung back, mouth wide open, throat wide open, and screaming like the most full-on, gut-wrenching scream, which is pouring through me, and I breathed in, and more screaming. And it almost was like, excuse me, like being, like the amount of energy pouring through my body was like birth. So I've had ecstatic birth. Birth is a portal, a seriously powerful portal of energy just flowing so powerfully. And when you fully surrender and become a vessel for that, it's like it's not you anymore. It's the total universe just pouring through you. And a little side note, like when you're not open and in full, like complete full surrender, you have no control. Your body is a vessel. If you're not open, that's when the energy gets stuck and it gets painful, and then all other stuff happens. We've all heard the stories about when births, most births in our modern society are not this full ecstatic experience, although, more and more people are experiencing that. You can prepare for that, and that's something that I support people with. That's not what this video is about. So I was feeling this like birthing, this energy, so powerful. And then I just burst into tears, and I was just crying and sobbing and like howling. And it felt like so much emotion and grief was pouring through my body. The men were quite solid. Like there's 2 men there were really solid, and I was just like emoting, like having this full on like stuff pouring through me. And then gradually it started to dissipate, and then we just came back into this quietness, and then it was this peace, and it was so intense. Like that experience was one of the most intense physical things I have experienced, besides childbirth, which is next level. And after that, then we did a debrief, and I actually felt amazing after that. I didn't feel exhausted. It didn't take anything out of me because I was just surrendering to be a vessel for what needed to be discharged from that area. And so then afterwards, the energy had shifted. It had begun to release. Like, it wasn't completely healed, but whatever was, it felt like a very deep angst, deep loss, total deep devastation. There was some very like big stuff. And the land is powerful where we were. There's like full on huge mountains either side. Powerful, powerful land. So I just wanted to share that with you because something really happened for me. Like, something really shifted for me in having that experience, that visceral, physical, embodied experience of what we are capable of when we tune into the energy and we step into service for the earth. You know, the earth is so powerful. She can live without us. She doesn't need us, but we are conscious beings. We're all immersed in this collective, and we do have the power to, with the power of our intention and our focus and our energy, we can make a difference. And what we do with our energy and how we can step into service is so powerful. It just felt so primal, so shamanic, so, like we are the earth beings. We are here to do what we can to restore balance and wholeness to this planet that has been going through a massive, massive crisis. And here we are, Rainbow Tribe, here to restore balance. So that was the story. I'm so excited, and it felt so huge. And in the Divine Mother Temple, there is an exercise to, strengthen your ability to be sensitive to these energies and become a vessel for healing on the earth. We can all do this. So that's it. Finishing up now. If you want to see more about me, go to blossomingwoman.com.au. I'm Avalon. Look forward to connecting with you again soon.